Hi everyone, I am Vishu Rajpal. आज जो हमारा टॉपिक है इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी एन अमेजिंग एंड अ वंडरफुल टॉपिक। हर माँ के अलग अलग सवाल होते हैं, अलग अलग प्रॉब्लम्स होते हैं, बट हमारे जो कंसर्न्स रहते हैं, हम लोग सुनते तो बहुत कुछ हैं। सबसे इम्पॉर्टेंट सोशल मीडिया वर्ड में हम लोग सुनते तो बहुत कुछ हैं, लेकिन हमें उन क्वेश्चंस के आंसर नहीं मिल पाते, ईदर बिकॉज वी हेजिटेट और बिकॉज ऑफ मैनी अदर रीजंस। सो आज जो यहाँ पे स्पेशल पर्सन आने वाले हैं, वो हमें हमारे बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस का आंसर देंगे, स्पेशली अबाउट द ग्रोथ, न्यूट्रिशन एंड पेरेंटिंग. This is the topic for the today's session. So let's invite our guest, Dr. Omprakash. Hello, good evening, doctor.
Good evening, everyone.
Please introduce yourself to the community.
I'm Dr. Omprakash here, working as a chief neonatologist and pediatrician at Apollo Hospital, and I work my own clinic at Nerul, Navi Mumbai.
Okay, that's great. क्या करते हैं, एक सर्वे करते हैं हमारे ग्रुप से। जो सर्वे होता है वहाँ पे बहुत सारी मदर्स की बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स होती हैं, उन लोगों को काफ़ी सारे डाउट्स होते हैं, मे बी पेरेंटिंग को लेके, या बहुत सारे क्वेश्चंस उनके मन में जो चलते रहते हैं। वो क्वेश्चंस मैं आपके
Right.
सामने कुछ लेके आना चाहती हूँ, एंड आई वुड लव इफ यू आंसर टू एवरीबडी आउट हेयर, बिकॉज उनको भी ये आंसर्स से बहुत सारा सपोर्ट मिलेगा. सो
Right.
बेसिकली the first question I want to ask is, as a pediatrician, how do you assess whether a child's growth and development is normal from infancy to adolescence?
So, growth is very important. I hope I'm audible to you all. So,
Yes,
when we
yes.
say growth, generally we look at the few parameters. In that, we look at the weight of the child, we look at
Okay.
the length for initial 2 years, and then we look at the head circumference growth also. These three parameters are very important. And if you see, if you are a newborn baby, in initial few days there is some weight loss is there, and by day 10 we expect the baby to come back to the birth weight. And then
Okay.
subsequently what we expect is every day there should be like 20 to 30 gram per day weight gain should happen. So that is almost like in
Okay.
initial 3 months there should be at least 600 to 800 gram increments in the weight per month. And then subsequently on third month onwards the
Okay.
weight gain decreases. It is like 20 gram per day, and by 6 to 12 months again it further
Okay.
decreases to 15 gram per day. And if I go further,
Okay.
as far as the
Okay.
rate of weight gain is concerned, I will say
Mm-hmm.
from 1 year to 12 year, the weight gain is
Mm-hmm.
hardly like 2 kg per year.
Okay.
So if you see, the weight gain is quite fast in initial few days, few months, and then subsequently it becomes bit stagnant process. And that is the reason
Okay.
many parents ask, like, my baby's weight is just stick to 11 kgs, 12 kgs, 15 kgs, because the proportion of activity that they do is out of proportion to the intake, you know and the
Okay.
intake becomes relatively constant. So that is one parameter. Second, we
Okay.
look at the height or length. For initial 2 years
Okay.
the child can't stand very well, so we look at the length of the baby. And then
Okay.
what we look is in that also the velocity of increasing the length. So what we see,
Mm-hmm.
at least like 4 centimeter per year is what we look for. And if there is less than that, then we should look at whether there is any reason for having a short stature. And as far as
Okay.
head growth is concerned, it is very important. And in that, it's not just the physical measurement, but we look
Okay.
at the developmental milestones of the child, and we plot all these parameters on the growth chart. See, like, it's not only one value which is very important for us. We look at the
Okay.
trend of increments or trend of decrements in the weight and like heights. So if there is
Okay.
any time you feel that the baby who was on one centile line, and then that,
Mm-hmm.
that has decreased by 2 lines or increased by 2 lines, that means there
Okay.
is some significant drastic changes there, where we need
Okay.
to look into the dietary history or other growth parameters and development to see whether there is
Okay.
any other reason for this thing to happen. So
Okay.
change in the two centiles, like there are, you must have seen of growth chart, there are WHO, IAP as well as CDC growth charts are there. So there are different
Okay.
centile lines are there, like there's a third centile, 10th centile, 25th, 50th, 75th. So
Okay.
based on your initial weight, we need to
Mm-hmm.
see whether the child is following that particular line. It is
Okay.
not that someone who is small to start, who is on third centile, we can't expect that child to go to the 75th centile suddenly. you know
Okay.
so
Mm-hmm.
what we see, from for the third centile child, whether the child is falling at least the expected line of third centile itself over a period of time. And
Okay.
someone who is on 50th centile, the line on 50th centile, if that baby is coming down to third centile, that means there is some problem is there. Either maybe some
Mhm.
reason for having, infections are there, or some cardiac problems are there. That is the reason the child is not gaining weight. So that is very important to keep a track of, rather than just one isolated value of weight or height and all that parameters.
ओके एंड व्हाट अबाउट स्पीच मीन्स आपने बताया ऑलरेडी हाइट वेट का पैरामीटर हमें चेक करना चाहिए एंड वेट लॉस एंड वेट गेन देन एक दो पैरामीटर्स और हैं जो मुझे मेरे को ऐसा लगा अबाउट द स्पीच एंड द वॉकिंग इसको हम कैसे नोट कर सकते हैं मीन्स हाउ कैन वी चेक वेदर दिस इज गोइंग इन द राइट ग्रोथ एंड डेवलपमेंट पार्ट और नॉट
Right. So see, what we are talking now is a development. Many
ओके
people just look at the growth. That is weight gain over a child. That is not the only one parameter. We should look
ओके
at the development of the child. So development has got a different perspective. So we
ओके
call it, gross motor, fine motor, language skills, and social skills. So gross motor
ओके
means, when did the child is holding the head, when did the child is sitting. So all these, like standing, walking, all these are gross motor milestones. So if
ओके
I look at this gross motor milestone and what is the expectation that we have got, so
ओके
we expect head control. Like when you try to hold the baby shows the head control. When you put the baby on the tummy, baby does try
ओके
to lift the head. So this should happen by like 2 to 3 months time. Okay,
ओके
so if there is a good head control, that means baby has got a good central muscle tone. Okay,
ओके
that tells me that the appropriate development of the muscles is happening.
ओके
As the baby grows, they try to roll over, so from one side to other side and then completely. So this process starts by like four months, and then by 6 months there is a complete rollover is there. And then simultaneously they start sitting with some support initially by 6 to 7 months, and then by
ओके
7 8 months they are sitting without support. Some
ओके
babies they do start crawling by this time, and some
Mhm.
babies they directly start standing with support by 9 months. And
Okay.
then by 10 to 12 months we expect them to stand without support and then taking some further steps. But there is
Okay.
always a variation in this. It's not that one baby starts at standing or taking step by 11 month, second may start
Mhm.
at 12 month, and third maybe by 15 18 month. So there is a
Okay.
cutoff by maximum like 15 to 18 month. We expect all babies to have some independent steps and walking with a slightly narrower gait. But if they are
Mhm.
not achieving this, that means there is some problem with their development is concerned. This is
Mhm.
as far as the gross motor milestones are concerned. And then
Okay.
by 2 years, we expect them to run, kicking the ball. 3 years, they start, riding a tricycle. That is what I remember. 3-year-old child
Correct.
riding a tricycle. 4 years, they
Yes.
start hopping and skipping. And then
Mhm.
by 5 years, their balance is on single foot. So this is what the
Correct.
gross motor milestone, what we expect. As far as
Okay.
fine motor, like fine motor means where we are using a finer skill, using the smaller muscles. So we look
Okay.
at the facial expressions. The child
Mhm.
baby notices the presence of the parents in the surrounding. He reaches to grasp objects by 4 months, and then
Mhm.
transfer object from one hand to other hand by 6 months. By nine
Okay.
months, they have got a good pincer grasp, like the way you hold your pencil. This is called as a palmar grasp, and this is called as a pincer grasp. And then they
Okay.
by 1 year, they start finger feeding, holding things and then putting in the mouth. By
Mhm.
15 to 18 months, they use spoon for and then
Mhm.
as the age progresses, what we expect by 2 years is they should be able to build tower of four, as well as able to communicate, start communicating. Like 9 months, they say Baba. By this time, they should be able to have two words together by 2 years. And 3 years is
Okay.
a time frame when they can make certain shapes, like making circles and scribbling things and making copying the square by 4 years. This is what we
Okay.
look in terms of their fine motor. Language
Okay.
and social milestones are very important in our given scenario. In fact,
Mhm.
since COVID time, we are seeing a lot many children having difficulties. There are conditions called as attention deficit hyperactivity, conditions like autistic spectrum disorders. So it is very important for us to understand whether the child's social and language milestones are developing or not. A newborn baby,
Okay.
coos to a sound, makes a laughing sound, starts babbles.
Mm-hmm.
By 9 months, we expect them to say some bisyllable words like mama, dada, and by 1 year, maybe like 1, 3 words more, and then trying to point out things. 15 month is a time frame. This is very important that they should point out their body parts. But obviously, you need to teach the child for that. If you are not teaching, then the child is not going to do that. So look at the
Okay.
surrounding animals are there. Dog, there is background noise of dog. So you show them that this is a dog. This is how it barks, and that is how they develop their communication skills. You know,
Correct.
and then as far as social emotional, I say there is a verbal communication and non-verbal communication. So social and
Okay.
emotional is your non-verbal communication. Like if you are upset, you make upsetting face. If you are happy, you
Mm-hmm.
smile. So similar sort of emotional exposure, emotional experience expressions should be there for the baby also, which is very
Okay.
important. If the child
Correct.
is not interested in the surrounding, he's not looking at you when you are talking with the child, he's playing with himself, not interested with other kids in the vicinity. So that means there is some difficulty is there for the child. And
Okay.
just to keep you in tune that these children don't have a mental issue, I mean to say their brain development is fine. It is the social and emotional milestones are getting hampered because of the lack of socialization, because of
Okay.
more exposure to the screen. And that
Mm-hmm.
is the thing where we should work more on socializing, where spending good time with the children rather than having a screen exposure for them.
Okay. And when should these delayed things should be a problem, either in the delayed speech, walking, poor weight, and all those four parameters which you said, if it is getting delayed, when should be a problem or the reason of concern for parents?
That's right. So this is what we call it as like a red flags. You know,
Okay.
so
Yes, correct.
a baby who is not smiling by the social smile, what is like 2 months, there is no head control by 4 months. Now I'm extending. It starts from 2 months, but by 4 months we expect. By 4 months, if it is not happening, that means there is some problem. Baby is not
Okay.
rolling over by 6 months, and there's no babbling sound by 9 months. And the response
Mm-hmm.
to name is also a very important parameter. That means there is an understanding of that someone is communicating with the baby. So if that
Okay.
response to name is not there by birthday, that means there is some problem either with the hearing or there are some other issues are there. And then pointing out and waving things by again birthday, that should happen to the child. And another thing which is very important, a child who has achieved certain activities, like a child who is running and he stops running, starts sitting more than standing. So that means there is a regression of the milestones. That also is an important marker that there is a red flag is there. And looking
Mm-hmm.
at this further communication part, if there is no first word by 1.5 year olds, that also tells me that there is some problem with the communication. And walking, as I said, by 15 to 18 months the child should be able to. By 18 months, if there is no walking, then that means there is some difficulty is there for the child. And as far as the
Mm-hmm.
fine skills are concerned, uh, if the child is not copying circle by 3 years, or speaking sentences by 3 to 4 years, that means there is some problem is there. And as I said, if there is any point of time you feel that there is poor eye to eye contact, the child is more into himself, not interested in the surrounding, that means there is some difficulty is there for this child. So these are like
Mm-hmm.
early markers what we can say. If the child is not doing this activities by this age, that means you need to get in touch with your doctor.
Okay. And in your clinical experience, I would love to really ask that how do genetics and nutrition influence in a child's growth, and how can proper nutrition and genetics, all these things can help us out. Means if you talk about nutrition, basically, how can this help about people and help to people for the child's growth actually?
I think genetics and nutrition is a big topic to discuss out itself. What I will focus at this stage, see, genetic conditions are not so common to cause problems with the nutrition. So what we should look in a given scenario is we should. I remember one sentence like obesity runs in my family because no one runs in my family. I hope you are
Correct.
getting that. So
Yes.
obesity runs because no one runs, you know. So
Correct.
we should implement certain good habits in our lifestyle so
Mm-hmm.
that rather than genetics, our day-to-day lifestyle itself has got a major impact on your growth and nutrition.
Okay.
So it is important as a parents, and I
Mm-hmm.
always tell to all these parents, like, being parent is a privilege. We see so many parents struggling for having a baby, they are doing IVF, this, that, and I being a neonatologist, I got a extremely preterm baby, 600 grams, 700 grams. So there is so much of struggle is there. But after becoming parent, we need to spare the time. That is what is lacking. To become parent is a struggle, but after being a
Correct.
parent, being a privileged parent, we
Mm-hmm.
always say that we should have one time with the baby. Then that will sort out the nutritional issues as well. There are certain genetic conditions has got an impact on that, but as I said, it is not the primary reason for having nutritional deficiencies. It's more, no one runs in your family, that's what you are obese, nothing else.
Correct, correct, correct. And it can be because of the diet reason also. So, what are the
Yes.
basic, dietary mistakes we parents do, which affects, the child's growth and immunity?
So I remember a beautiful verse again from Bhagavad Gita, which tells like Yukta Ahar Viharasya, Yukta Chestasya Karmasu, Yukta Swapnava Bodhasya, Yogo Bhavati Dukkha. So this Yukta is a balance, Yukta
Okay.
Ahar, that is a
Mm-hmm.
balanced diet. Vihar is, recreational activities or going into the surrounding. And then Yukta Chestasya Karmasu is the balanced activities. So this balanced diet has got a relation with everything. If you want to be happy, you should have a balanced diet. And I always tell, mom for us being a newborn baby specialist is not just mother. Mom is mother's own milk. That is MOM. Okay.
Okay.
So this is exclusive breastfeeding for initial 6 months. That is what we need, mom, for
Mm-hmm.
initial 6 months. And
Okay.
after that, we start something called as a complementary food, which
Okay.
is complementing along with the mother's milk. So
Okay.
the principles for starting complementary feed is start with homemade things, natural things, avoid ready to use processed food. That is very important. Start with one thing at a time and let the baby get adjusted to that one component. Maybe if you are starting with rice, don't give
Mm-hmm.
water of rice or water of dal that doesn't contain any calories, protein. Give proper mashed rice or dal that gives
Okay.
some extra calories, proteins to the baby, and then
Okay.
continue same for like few days, 2 3 days, let the baby get adjusted, and then
Okay.
one by one add another component in the diet of the baby. This is how we should introduce the food to the baby. And when we are
Okay.
adding these components, don't add any salt, sugar, flavoring agent, processing agent, this, that. It should
Okay.
be free free of all these things. And the things which you are preparing in your home, that is also very important. Initial few days parents are very enthusiastic, they collect, I will do this part, that part, and then later everything goes bang. So let's try
Correct.
to be realistic and practical. That is very important when you are starting the food. And
Mm-hmm.
after, as the age progresses, what I expect to the parents is like by 1 year, the baby should be able to sit with you, which the baby
Okay.
has already achieved the milestones wise, and able to
Correct.
eat what we are eating. So that
Mm-hmm.
indirectly tells ourselves that our food plate should be healthy and balanced. You know,
Mm-hmm.
so that is what our target should be, and it should have
Mm-hmm.
got a proportionate content of fruits, vegetables, the cereals and pulses, which are good sources of proteins, as well as the dairy products. So
Okay.
this is how, and as age progresses, the content of fruits and vegetables should go on increasing, not just the
Mm-hmm.
cereals and pulses. And that is how it will help to prevent further problems in terms of obesities. And we are seeing children with diabetes and hypertension in early childhood. So that all is because of the dietary contents that we are having. Recently, one
Okay.
of my cardiology friends, he told that his kids are having hypertension. And then when we reviewed the content of the food, to our interest of all, if you see the chips, the content of salt in the chips, you can't imagine how much there is salt in there. You see any
Correct.
juices, look at the sugar content in the
Lot of
juices,
sugar is
it's
there.
quite
Yes.
huge. So we need to be very careful in terms of what we are giving the children. Even the sauce that we use, we may think like, once in a while you're using bread
Lot of
jam and sauce.
preservatives.
There are a lot of preservatives, sugar, salt. There's so many things are there. So
Correct.
I always say like you should have more a balanced diet that contains all these fruits, vegetables, cereals, pulses, and the dairy content, which will give adequate calories and protein rather than giving bad long-term problems to your child.
Okay. And another thing I really want to ask, like we keep on watching on social media that there are a lot of protein powders, there are a lot of supplements which have come, and multivitamins, and nowadays there are gummies for kids. Many things have come into the market. So, are they really good for our kids, or we should work on their immune system and their growth naturally? Be it newborn baby, newborn माने 6 months वाला
Yeah.
baby हो जिसको हम diet दे सकते हैं, or be
Yes.
it 5-6 years kids, any of the age. And even
That's right.
I've seen teenagers
Yeah.
focusing on more of multivitamins, calcium, vitamin D, so many. Even a niece of mine, she's 13, and she's calling me and asking which calcium tablet shall I take. I said, first of all, I'm not a doctor. Second, you are just 13. Why you want calcium? You can have.
That's right.
I
That's right.
don't like milk. So, this is how it is happening. So, are they
So,
good for kids' growth?
right. So I will say the supplements are supplements. They are not your
Mm-hmm.
food. They are not your
Okay.
diet, primary diets. So we should work on your primary food content, which should be healthy. That is what I divided, like, in terms of the fruits, vegetables, the cereals, pulses, and your dairy content. They should
Mm-hmm.
be the primary source of supplementation for you rather than anything else. you know we
Okay.
use supplement in a situations where there is a deficiency is there.
Mm-hmm.
So for Indian scenario, to give a best example is the vitamin D deficiency. If
Mm-hmm.
all of us check our vitamin D level, we hardly have got sufficient levels of vitamin D in our body, because we don't have a sunlight exposure. We have got a
Correct.
good sunlight, but we don't have a
Mm-hmm.
sunlight exposure. So that is one part. Second thing, looking at the micronutrient content, what we are having most of the time is less of fruits and vegetables in our diet, and then automatically the micronutrient that we are supposed to get, which are going to build up our immunity, they are also less easily available to us. And that is the time when we feel that, is it fatigability is there, or you may get some cramps and all that things are there because of deficiency of vitamin D and calcium. So let's work on this as a natural sources rather than as a supplement. So I, as a practitioner, if there is a documented deficiency is there, only in that situations we give. Because of lack of sunlight exposure, we do give vitamin D for babies for initial 12 month of age, and then after 12 month, after the birthday, we don't give any routine supplements per se. We want them
Okay.
to play in the sunlight. We want them to have adequate content of food which gives them the essential micronutrients. So let's, as
Okay.
far as you are talking about something about immunity. So that is
Yes.
another very hot topic to discuss, because everyone feels that my child's immunity is not good. They are getting infections all the time. So uh, I'll say nature helps us to build up immunity by giving exposure to different viruses. That is one way where the child. In fact, I ask the parents, like, you as a child, ask to your parents how many times you must have got a cough cold. Okay, so we do
Correct.
get cough cold, we do get fever, but our body fights back with this infection. There should not be any use of antibiotics as a routine for all cough cold. That is another message I want to give all of you, that don't use any antibiotic irrationally just like that. Second thing,
Okay.
the immunity by giving things from outside. So that is your immunization. So we have got some immunization preventable conditions which helps us to prevent, like the oral polio vaccination. The polio vaccination has eradicated India from polio. So that is significant step. So that way, all the vaccines which are available should be given as a priority, because that helps us to build up the immunity. And along with that, prevention is always better by than cure. So one is vaccine. Second is your the diet which helps to improve the immunity. There are certain vitamins are there, like vitamin A is there, vitamin C you must have taken during COVID time, then zinc is there, iron is there, probiotics are there. So all these are very important. So let's see the resources of all these all natural ingredients. So vitamin A, I say A, B, C, D when I say vitamin A. So B is for banana, C is for carrot, and D is for drumsticks. And along with that, there is a sweet potato. So these are the
Okay.
sources of vitamin A. And vitamin C, I'm sure everyone is familiar with, from lemon, amla, and oranges. So that everyone takes. And other micronutrients, particularly zinc, is very important for building up your immunity, which is there in chickpeas, ragmas, as well as black chana. Almonds are also very good source of proteins as well as these micronutrients of zinc. So soak almonds are always better. And then iron, there are so many sources of iron, like green leafy vegetables are there, pomegranate is there, nashni or ragi is very good source of iron as well as calcium. And probiotic, you must be familiar that you get yogurt, which is a natural probiotic. So all these things help us to build up the immunity, and that is what I suggest to the parents, rather than giving any additional supplements just like that. For and protein supplement is not at all a good idea, because overload of proteins, we have seen cases of kidney getting damaged because of these artificial proteins and all that thing. So we should be careful. Better to take soya chunks and other natural proteins rather than anything else.
Okay. And abhi ye supplement से question suddenly came in my mind when my kid was around 6 months or so. तो मेरे साथ ऐसा हुआ था. मैं पहले जैसे हम पाउडर्ड मिल्क देते थे before 6 months or so. Then we started giving packet वाला milk or the cow milk. तो somebody said नहीं नहीं ये गाय भैंस का दूध इन्फेक्शन करता है, better to stick on those powdered milk, they are much better for your kids health. Is it so? ये cow milk and buffalo milk is more dangerous than the powdered one, or the powdered one should be discontinued if you're giving food to the kid? Means I really want information on this.
So I always tell, the cow's milk is for the calf and mother's milk is for the baby. See, the cows or other animals don't need any additional
Okay.
extra effort to get the milk. It's a natural process to get a milk.
Mm-hmm.
There are social factors, there are
Okay.
our thought process and all that thing that is causing this challenge of breastfeeding to the baby. We should work on that. In fact, I always say, before conception, after conception, you should talk with your gynecology obstetrician that what are the ways to help improve the milk production. And from there itself, you should start preparing that I am going to do exclusive breastfeeding for the baby. This is how the thought
Mm-hmm.
process should be, and there should not be any need of any formulas. That is what I will say. In certain
Okay.
working mothers also, what I suggest, when they are having, they get on an average like 6 months, 8 months of leave, after the
Mm-hmm.
birth of the baby. So during this
Okay.
6 months time, I ask them to express the milk, and this express mother's milk, if stored properly in a freezer, it can be
Mm-hmm.
stored for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And if you store in a normal component, lower component of the fish can be stored for like 24 hours very easily. So this
Okay.
express milk, if you keep very well stored, you can
Mm-hmm.
use subsequently also when you are thinking of resuming your work.
Mm-hmm.
So there should not be need of formulas. That is first thing. By chance,
Okay.
if there is, in that case, if I compare the cow milk and formula feed, in that situation, cow milk will have got lot of solutes, the salts and proteins and everything is very high for the baby to tolerate. That is the
Mm-hmm.
reason, if mother's milk, there are challenges are there. In certain situations, we think of
Mm-hmm.
giving outside milk, then formula of milk, the powder milk will be a better option than giving the cow milk. And generally, there is something called as a cow milk protein intolerance or allergies. So they are also common if the baby is exposed to that in early stages. So that is the reason we don't suggest cow milk for the babies.
Okay. I have few questions from my audience, and one
Yeah.
of the question even I have heard from a, friend of mine. She is a new baby mother, and
Mhm.
very less income oriented family they are. So what she said in the same question I have in my chat box also. In private hospitals, there are so many vaccinations which are instructed, but in government hospital they limit to the vaccination level. It's very
Yes.
confusing. Which one should
Very right.
follow?
Yes. So now, all the mothers who are viewers, they must be in the age group of, I will say, 25 to 45. Okay. I'm
Correct.
just telling average. So now,
Yes.
uh, for all of you, as a baby, as a child, have not received hepatitis B vaccine. If you look in your vaccination record. Okay. But I, as a doctor, I have to take hepatitis B before I start, entering into the practices. Hmm.
Correct.
And now the newer vaccination schedule from Government of India, if you see, there is a hepatitis B vaccination which is recommended to be given within 24 hours of life.
Okay.
Agreed?
Yeah.
So
Correct.
does that mean that hepatitis B has become an important component today and it was not important 25 years prior when you were a small child?
Correct.
What do you say?
That no, that's not the point. It must be important that time too.
That's right. So that is how the system develops. So based on the available facilities, we must appreciate government of India today, who is giving instead of triple what you used to get as a child, they are giving five penta, which was important that time also, which is important today also. So this is how there is going to be some differences in the vaccination schedule. So
Okay.
I tell that vaccination is an investment. You invest today to prevent the disease to happen in future. So
Okay.
that is how we should look for it. Rather than confuse, rather than this is optional, this is compulsory. There is nothing called as optional or compulsory. This is
Okay.
what government is giving to all who is not able to give, take it additionally. So at least take
Mhm.
this thing, and if it is possible you can take additional. It's like that.
Mhm. Okay. And another thing, like, basically, what is the fact today is most of the moms today, आज की generation वाली have one kid. तो over pampering में usually हो जाता है. तो I have a question from a mom. She is having one baby and उनका basic question ये है कि over protective होना और uninvolved होना या neglect करना baby को, इसके बीच में एक healthy balance हम कैसे create कर सकते हैं?
So this is very important. We have a lack of resources in our home. Earlier, families used to be bigger families where the things are taken care of. When you are busy in your work, someone else is managing your child, someone else is playing with your child. So the child
Correct.
is so engaged positively. So in present scenario, parents get fed up with the child because child wants all the time attention, is running here and there. And I will tell you, for the child also, they are also fed up of you as a parent because you are not
Correct.
giving their time. So it is not just
Correct.
only you have got the problem, but the child is also having the problem with you. Okay.
Correct.
So we need to have a balance. That is
Mhm.
very important. And in this situation, to set the balance, we should set by example. Again, I remember a verse which says like, "Yada yada acharati shrestha, tada tada eve taro jana." Means the shrestha are like the senior people. For a child, shrestha is mother, father, and the teacher. So they observe us. How do we behave? How do we react? Whether it is a food or whether it is our day-to-day life activities. We can't expect a child to get up in early in the morning when we are sleeping late and getting up late. So we have
Correct.
to set up by our own example. That is how the best way of setting examples, I will say, rather than just telling them to do things. Okay, that is first component. Second component, you know they do have a tendency of doing mistakes. So it's not that we have to become like a helicopter parent, or we need to be very administrative parent, like everything we are trying to poke, or everything we are
Yeah.
trying to helping them. Let them do mistakes. You can
Okay.
guide them, and after guiding, step back. Don't be again doing corrections on their behalf. Guide them
Okay.
and let them do the corrections, and that itself will help them to improve their analyzing power. Otherwise the
Mhm.
child will just follow, he will just become a follower. So that should not be one. And many a times I see, for everything parents tend to say no. In fact, when we did some analysis of so small babies, what is the first word that they are learning nowadays is no, no, because that is
Correct.
what they are hearing again and again. So don't say no, no for everything. Look at the other perspective, engage them. That is very important. Engage them and be a child with a child. That is very
Correct.
important, so that you try to play with them actively, rather than giving a mobile or maybe some iPhone or iPad or something like that to keep them busy, and you do your work and they are busy with the screen.
Correct. 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 And at the end, I really want, one question. What is your key message for parents to raise a healthy child in today's lifestyle?
So I will say, give a good example. That should be the first and foremost target that we should have. Second, spend quality time with the child. Being a parent is a privilege, so you should use the privileges appropriately, so that you give a good next generation for the society and for the nation.
Okay. Okay, so basically, what I got from this session is that a healthy lifestyle is important for a child's growth. And do we have any chart, by the way, which can help, these moms to raise their kids in a better way?
So I do have got one YouTube channel of mine also. You can go through that. I have made some videos like screens,
Yeah.
how to prevent the screen exposure for a child and how to engage them more, connect them with the environment. I always tell again to the parents like a process of putting seed in the soil. This is a
Mm-hmm.
small process, but that teaches a big lesson for a child. Being in touch with the soil, being in touch with the texture of the seed, watering the
Mm-hmm.
seed. So
Mm-hmm.
connect them to the environment, connect them to the society. That is very important for them. So there are certain videos of mine that also you can go through. That will be also helpful. And in terms of common medicinal, the common problems that you face in your daily life, child having fever, or you feel that your child is immunity is low. So all these things we should analyze and address rather than jumping on things. I see so many parents doing self medication that should never be done, using antibiotics that should be done with caution. So all these things are very important for us.
Okay, that was an amazing session, and we would love to wrap it because we are running late. And thank you so much for giving your useful time. It was really a nice session and full of information. Thank you once again for coming. We would love if you come very frequently again with us and give us all these information so it can help new moms for us.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank Thank you everyone who all are in the live session. Thank you everyone for coming and bye bye everyone. See you very soon. Bye.